Welcome back to United TV for the latest Manchester United news, Manchester United discussion. We're going to be covering the story stemming from David Ornstein's tweet this morning and some of the things coming out from The Athletic. We're going to look at Matheus Fernandes, Stone saying that it's going to be an offer quite soon. Also, we'll be looking at Marcus Rashford. Is there going to be a return to Old Trafford? I think a lot of people are not going to want to see that. But we're going to just take a calm look at the news again and see what's likely to be happening. Just to reiterate what I said this morning, David Ornstein did post a tweet saying that Manchester United's midfield plan is going to be unchanged, even though Ugarte is injured. The current plan was always going to be to get three midfield players in. The fact that Ugarte is injured, if anything, just strengthens that move to get three players in because Ugarte is not going to be able to be used as a backup. So I don't see there being any concern. One of the minor issues might be if Manchester United were looking to try and strengthen the rest of the team in the left wing position, left back position, then there's a slightly less chance of that happening. There's a slightly higher chance that Marcus Rashford returns. And I think that's where people are getting a bit excited about Marcus Rashford. I've seen a few people already reacting quite angry about the news, but let's be realistic here. There isn't actually any Rashford news. Everything that we know about Rashford is exactly the same as it was a while ago. Maybe what we're seeing now is Man United being a bit more sensible with the PR. They're not going to be putting out. Do you remember when we had the bomb squad situation? If you want to sell Marcus Rashford, it's probably not sensible to pretty much say Marcus Rashford is forced out of the club and Man United don't value him because that pushed down the price. And it's meant that Man United for the last couple of years have effectively been loaning Rashford, and Rashford's been doing a job at Villa, doing a job at Barcelona, and Man United are probably looking at the moment as what's the best way of managing this situation. They might not get the money they want for Rashford, so maybe they're looking at trying to. Again, I think Marcus Rashford wants to leave Man United. I think Man United want to sell Marcus Rashford, but at the moment it seems to be like a PR campaign to both sides, keep things amicable, and hopefully that helps get a deal done. But we're going to be covering Matheus Fernandes as well and looking at that situation because I think a deal's going to be done quite soon. But again, I think it's like a lot of people, in the absence of information, they look at Ornstein, they look at Romano, people start getting angry that there seems to be inactivity. But what we're seeing here is Man United, we probably hold all the aces in this like hand anyway. And I think West Ham are just desperate to try and get at an increased fee. So just a quick question to people. What would you rather start the stream with? I'm going to cover both, probably about the same amount each, I guess. But should we start with like Matheus Fernandes and then move on to Rashford? So we can start with the lead story. But also, before I go into the conversation, just if you just tuned in, then just post something in the comments so I can see. But big up to you, Danny B, in the chat. Big up to you, Gaz, as well. Rob, and hope you legends are having a good day. Also, Berber, good to see you in the chat as well. So, again, it's going to be quite calm. I think a lot of people are getting quite angry on YouTube. I don't really see the point in getting angry about things beyond your control. Let's just be realistic here. Manchester United, Matheus Fernandes. At the moment, the way transfers are being reported has just changed over the last maybe year, 2 years. And so what we're seeing is, big up to you, Genghis, what we're seeing now is that Fabrizio, David Ornstein, they probably were like standalone top tier journalists maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, and people look to them for guidance in terms of what's happening in the transfer market. And we're just seeing agents utilize Fabrizio, utilize other journalists as well to pretty much push information out there. And let's be clear about this. Manchester United have wanted Matheus Fernandes for quite a while. Matheus Fernandes, by most accounts, seems to favour a move to Manchester United. But there seems to be this desperate link to try and... there seems to be some sort of desperation from West Ham to try and instigate a bidding war. We saw loads of stories about 2 months ago saying Paris Saint-Germain so interested in Matheus Fernandes. They're so interested they've made literally no effort to speak to Matheus Fernandes' camp. We're seeing stories about Real Madrid interested. Real Madrid, if they're interested, they're going about it in a pretty covert manner. They're not really making any significant progress either. Spurs seem to be the one team that have interest, but it feels a little bit like whatever Spurs do, I don't think it's going to turn Matheus Fernandes' head. I think there's a desperation on West Ham to try and push this out as long as possible. And Man United have just sat there relaxed, just waiting, just going, look, we're going to make an offer. It's not going to be 85 million. It's not going to be 80 million pounds. And West Ham are probably going to have to accept that offer if it's somewhere, at least to be in terms of a serious offer. And it's not, I don't think it's going to be a derisory amount either. Manchester United, they know that Matheus Fernandes costs 42 million. They know there's like a sell-on clause as well. And they know West Ham need a little bit of profit. So I think we can all do the maths in our head and say, look, if you look at 65 to 70, then there's probably a deal there where West Ham will make a nice profit. It's not going to be astronomical. Matheus Fernandes is not at the level of Elliot Anderson at the moment, and I think the price should be definitely representative of that. It shouldn't be a crazy figure. So if West Ham think there's going to be Man United throwing crazy money, I think West Ham are going to be disappointed, like very disappointed. So let me go through a few of the chats as well. Daily Contact FC, exactly. Thing is though, it feels a bit like if you're going to buy something from a shop and you know that no one else can afford it and no one else is interested, and you just haven't got quite enough money, or you don't think it's worth that amount of money, you don't have to be, you don't have to like pay that sort of price. Danny B says, "Do you know what it feels like, Danny? I think you're right, and it feels a bit like Fabrizio Romano. Let's put it this way: Fabrizio Romano makes a lot of money if there's a Matheus Fernandes story every single day. There is not a Matheus Fernandes every single story every single day. The story isn't really changing that quickly. The only thing that's changing really is the passing of time, and that is not in West Ham's favour. And if anything, it feels a little bit like Mbeumo, where Matheus Fernandes hasn't really come out and said exactly the same as Mbeumo said, but what he has done is he's not given the green light to any other club, and there isn't another club at the table in terms of what we've been talking about as well. So Man United have been in conversation with Matheus Fernandes for about 2 months now. It might even be longer. And what's been anticipated now is Simon Stone saying that, and other journalists are saying the same sort of thing. There's an anticipation that something's going to happen over the next couple of days. So we're getting towards that time period where 30th of June is a rumored deadline. They're just taking I think they're just taking a financial year here and just going like, okay, one financial year ends the 1st of July. It's where Man United like to do deals. You can get that deal onto the books. You can then spread this cost out over a number of years. I would not be surprised if Man United are making an effort here to go, right, we might pay a bit more, but we're going to want payment terms that are preferential. West Ham, they can realise the money on their books straight away. Manchester United can actually pay for it over a slightly longer period of time, and maybe that's going to be a negotiation here. But it seems to be that, remember the Mbeumo, remember the Cunha, Manchester United's finances were a little bit on the dodgy side 12 months ago. They're definitely in a bit better state now. Man United actually starting to make profit again. So financially, Man United is doing better in terms of like able to spend some cash, it seems. But they're always going to be downplaying how much money Man United can spend. But also, United are mindful that they need to send out a message now that this club has changed from what it was a couple of years ago. We're not the same club that's going to go, Anthony, 85, there you go. And Matheus Fernandes, 85, there you go. We're not going to do those sort of deals now. And West Ham, they need to look also. If I was West Ham, I would be thinking, we've got to try and push this as long as we can. But also, remember Carlos Baleba. How much money could Brighton have got for Carlos Baleba 12 months ago? How much would they realistically get now? So there is a bit of a gamble here. Matheus Fernandes, he's going to be in the Championship. If West Ham don't get promoted from the Championship, I don't see Matheus Fernandes' price being pushed up a lot. And it might be that his price does come down as well. So I think West Ham, they can be a bit too greedy and they can get a bit unlucky if they're looking at this situation. And also, give it 12 months, we might be looking at other players that have come up and had one good season in the Premier League as well. So again, it's a little snapshot in time. So I get the feeling that I think Man United are going to put the offer on the table. But if you're Man United, what would you prefer to happen? Would you prefer Manchester United to go? Would you prefer Man United to just pay 80 million pounds and get the deal done now, or would you rather that? Because I don't see any significant movement. Like, is Matheus Fernandes realistically linked to another club? apart from some of the kind of sketchy journalists that are pushing out information mainly for clicks, let's be realistic here. There may well be interest in Spurs, but does anybody seriously think that Matheus Fernandes is going to choose Spurs over Manchester United? Like, with all the best will in the world, even when Man United finished 15th, they got more pull than Spurs. I think the Spurs, no Champions League football. I don't think anyone's going to predict Spurs to get Champions League football next year. The year after, it's going to be pretty difficult to see that happening. I just think that with United, what's if you're thinking about the difference, if Man United think they can get this deal done for about, let's say, 65 plus five add-ons, just as an example, is there any point in paying more than that or just waiting? So if there's no significant threat, and we saw this with Bremo, I just don't see the difference. I think this is exactly the same situation. I don't see why we'd waste our time regarding this one. Yeah, Romano is. I think Romano is being relegated a little bit. He's still going to be quite good for, like, he still gets scoops, he still gets info, but I think Romano is the go-to person when a deal's just about to happen. If something's about to happen, Fabrizio Romano will be like the first person with the he would go, and I think David Ornstein as well will be one of the more accurate sources. The issue with Romano now is it's not just about the deals, is it? Now it's about the speculation. And I think Romano has basically just extended the amount of content he's doing, and he's doing it because he's getting paid very well. But also, agents are using Romano to hype up a few things. Also, if you want to unsettle a player, you want to get things into the media. Fabrizio Romano is basically your go-to guy. He's got a big, he casts a wide net over the internet, and people will put information out via him as well. But he says the same thing over and over again. And I think when he does says the same thing over and over again, Gaz, I don't think Fabrizio's in the loop with this sort of deal. It might be that Mendes would love to get information regarding Fabrizio to try and say that Spurs are interested. And I'm sure Spurs are interested. But if I was negotiating for Spurs, I'd be going back to Spurs and saying, look, we're not going to get anywhere. Like, we can offer more money, we can offer a bigger salary, but let's be realistic here. I think most people know that it's not going to be who spends the most money. It's even yesterday I saw that Spurs and Manchester United were effectively offering the same sort of contract terms. So Spurs are not offering a bigger salary than Man United. So they've literally got nothing to offer. Unless Fernandez really loves living in London or kind of likes maybe he's got a bit of Stockholm syndrome for relegation fights. That's the only way I can see Matheus Fernandes staying in London. If he wants to jump ship and have another relegation fight with Spurs, I just don't see that happening. I just think that's right. It's ridiculous. We just a better big up to you, my friend. He says it feels like United nailed the colours to the mast in hope of a cheap deal. Now we're going to have to save face. I don't think it. I don't think Man United are going to have to spend too much more money than they initially thought. I think this is where it's there is kind of like a somewhat. I know it's like a kind of seller's market, but I don't see there's going to be any buyers. It's still no matter what West Ham do, and no matter what whatever Mendes pushes out there, and whatever Fabrizio says, the end decision is going to come down to Matheus Fernandes. I've always said that unless I see something significant coming out regarding Matheus Fernandes preferring a move to Spurs or wanting to go somewhere else, I just can't see any reason at all why that would happen. Big up to you, Sky. Good afternoon to you. Hope you're having a good day. I just can't see any scenario where he's not a Man United player at the present time. And that's just based on what I'm reading in the media. If something changes, then I'm happy to see Man United go for Boadi. I just don't see him being actually cheaper at this point in time. I think if the rumours of Boadi costing 80 million euros and you have to loan him back, or potentially 100 million, I think Matheus Fernandes is going to go for like the same money, if not cheaper. So we'll see. And my prediction was about 65 million. I'm now thinking Matheus Fernandes. I'll be genuinely surprised if he's going to be like over 70. That for me feels a bit like a top end. But I think it's going to be add-ons. And I'd imagine what's happening is Manchester United are just waiting because West Ham, they need the money at some point. I think United are just going, right, our offer's not going to change. It doesn't matter that Anderson costs 115. Matheus Fernandes hasn't been playing at the level of Anderson, and and Matheus Fernandes seems to want Manchester United. So, and again, West Ham are in a position where they do need to make some sales. So everything seems to be kind of be. I know it's frustrating. I'm super impatient myself, but I just can't see a different outcome. I remember talking about Mbeumo last year, and it was yeah exactly the same sort of energy. So I'm refusing to look at any news related to us because it's the same shite as usual. You can't take any more to Sky. Yeah, so Sky, I apologise if this does seem to be the same news. I just think with this one that there isn't any new news. That's kind of my my scoop on this. There is no new news, and the reason why there's no news is because Man United are just waiting patiently. They're not going to push the price up. West Ham at some point are going to have to accept that they're going to take that. I don't think there's any other offer on the table that Matheus Fernandes will accept, and it feels like there's an inevitability. It's a bit like watching like an episode of the A Team. Whatever twists and turns are happening, you know the A Team are going to win in the end, and I just feel like this one is going to be no matter what happens, you kind of just want to like fast forward it, don't you, and just get to the action. And go, let's just get to the here we go because we know it's going to happen. So I will say this: I don't normally make ridiculous statements, but if Man United don't sign Matheus Fernandes, please feel free to come in the chat. I'll do a short stream or I'll do something where it says sorry I was wrong. If Man United don't sign Matheus Fernandes, then I'll probably get some excuses ready. But I just can't think of any foreseeable. Like I can't think of any scenario where Man United walk away because I just don't see him costing the amount of money that West Ham want. But maybe Danny can like be on my side as well for the streams because he says wait for the 60 plus 10 add-ons. I think 70 seems a bit like it seems like the price we're gonna have to wait for. And unfortunately, yeah, luckily there's like a World Cup game every couple of hours to distract us from whatever's going on in the transfer window. But it's like our summer ritual, isn't it? I think you know how you have like this idea of Man United. First, it's like the endless planning, and then when everybody gets into their mind what Man United are going to do, then it feels to be executed but in slow motion. It's like wanting to watch a film but it's not been made yet. So you get like a little segment here and there. You kind of know the plot, you know what's going to happen. You just have to wait for it to happen, and it's really frustrating, isn't it? I think for Man United fans, you kind of get tested. Your patience gets tested quite a lot. Genghis says play hardball. We can't allow Spurs to beat us. I don't think that Spurs can beat us. I just don't think it's a bit like sometimes we see Berbers like do analogies regarding certain Sydney Sweeney, and there's just some things, isn't there, that Spurs, no matter what Spurs think they can do or what they're going to do, in the end, they are Spurs, aren't they? So they have to be realistic. It's a bit like Man United wanting to get Vinicius Junior. I see the stories, I read the stories, I ignore the stories and go, look, Vinicius Junior is not going to go, Bernabeu is quite nice. I do quite like being in the Champions League every single season and winning trophies every other year. But maybe I want a challenge. I think Vinicius Junior does not want a challenge like Man United. So I think those stories are worth ignoring. And I think the Spurs situation is exactly the same, that Spurs have to be realistic. That the only players they're going to get are players that Manchester United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City don't want. Like you're not going to be getting those. Uh, no, actually, with the World Cup, anybody got any thoughts on Germany and Nagelsmann? I mean, I'm not saying Nagelsmann's responsible, but the German football was pretty crap. I know people got a bit excited because they beat that. Who did they beat? Was it who did Germany beat? Was it Caruso? They beat 7-1, and people got excited. I didn't even know where Caruso was on the map at the time. But big up to you, Cake, saying got a few days off for the World Cup. You're going to enjoy the next few days. England play at a sensible time, I think. They play at 5 p.m. So big up to you, Kaz. Kaz says we're into FC, imminent FC. There's going to be, but I've been trying not to cover the Fernandes story because I feel like it's inevitable. But at the moment, the other story is Marcus Rashford. And I feel like the Marcus Rashford situation is a little bit like a bit rage baity. I think a lot of channels want to put Marcus Rashford in the firing line for people to and use it as a stream where people can just post negative things about the player. Let's be realistic here. Manchester United, we've moved a few players on. Marcus Rashford is not the same player as someone like Garnacho. Garnacho was completely useless to Manchester United. If Rashford actually was motivated, he would be a useful player. Even if he's off the bench as a bench option, he would still be useful. But Man United would prefer to sell him. I think that for me, there's not a big story regarding Rashford at the moment. I think it's just about Man United being sensible and just not pushing out loads of negative crap about players. Like for me, when you have a manager like Ruben Amorim saying that players are the worst players in a generation and that players don't understand his tactics and all this sort of rubbish we saw a year ago, that makes it so difficult to sell players. So I think it's probably good that Man United have actually just tried to put a sensible spin on this one as well. So let me go through a few of the comments. If you've got some comments either way, please vote on the poll. If you are new to the channel, then please let us know. We're trying to do streams a little bit shorter because I know news is a bit thin on the ground. And exactly, Mark, if the plan comes together, it's going to be all worthwhile, isn't it? But at the moment, I think with Man United, it's very difficult. Uh, So yeah, the Forest situation as well. Just I think everybody thought that all transfers are going to be incredibly expensive. Alex said it seems like every player is worth 70 million unless they wear a United shirt. Maybe with this one, we're probably going to have to see if some of these players do actually ended up costing as much as we think. Um, yeah, to be honest, actually, getting Simp and Berber, I think probably got as much chance as getting Sydney as possibly Spurs have a got of hijacking Man United's deals. That I don't think that's going to be realistic. So Sydney Sweeney might not realise it, but I think there's probably more chance of Spurs getting. Actually, yeah, probably about the same chance as Spurs getting Matheus Fernandes. Every player being valued at 70, we can't get 26 for Rashford. No, I think that at the moment that someone will pay for Rashford. So for me, it's simple. He's the man United want to have to bid. Simple as that. If he goes to Spurs, that would be a real setback. Does anybody think he would go like say? Yanni says money talks though. Who have Spurs beaten us to? I'm just trying to think. Have Spurs beaten us to a player that we actually genuinely wanted? So I know Man United. We had Mathis Tell on the kind of trajectory for a little bit as well. If Spurs are actually willing to pay 75 to 85 for Fernandes, West Ham will hold out and tell Fernandes he can't go. Spurs, I think. Do you reckon that would be? I think West Ham can say that, but West Ham do need to get some money at some point. I think if I was Matheus Fernandes, that if you go to Spurs, you're effectively signing the next 5 years of your life. So if Matheus Fernandes goes to the Championship, he's going to suddenly look like a world-beating player, isn't he, in that league? So if I was Matheus Fernandes, there's no way I'm going to go to Spurs. Like it's 5 years of your life. You may as well play 1 year in the Championship and then go for a cut price deal and get a much bigger contract at United, which might be what you could get. Well, hopefully there's less pain watching Man United, so watching England, Ryan. Um, no, Germany looked pretty rubbish actually, like really rubbish. That's what I was thinking. I think Germany had been poor for a while. I think people got a bit excited because they beat Caruso 7-1, but I thought they were a bit average throughout most of this competition. Big up to you, Bilal. Good to see you. Yeah, definitely go outside if you can. Andy Bez, is this about Matheus Fernandes? Then I think Matheus Fernandes. These are the reasons why I think Man United are going to get Matheus Fernandes. One is Bruno Fernandes. Matheus Fernandes would love to play in the same team as Bruno Fernandes. Two, the other team that we're talking about is Spurs. I can't see any reason why he'd go to Spurs. I did see the question that statement saying money talks. Spurs are rumoured to have offered the same sort of contract as Manchester United to Matheus Fernandes. And also, if you go to Spurs, it could be difficult to leave the club. I just can't see a player signing a 5-year contract. If you look at some of the players that have joined Chelsea recently, they're not very happy with the situation. I just think that Matheus Fernandes, if you're looking at leaving, you've gone to Southampton, you've gone to West Ham. Why go to another mediocre team? For me, Spurs is a sideways step, and if you've got an opportunity to play for Manchester United, the biggest club in England, it just does not make any sense at all. Like I did say this, no, I will do the backtracking video if it doesn't happen, and I will say sorry, guys, but I just can't see it happening. So as much as you want us to sell Rashford, if he stays and has a good season, say a season as he did last season at Barcelona, then keeping him would have worked, but he has to perform. Do you think with this one that maybe the expectation of Rashford, it depends on what you think his level is. But I think Marcus Rashford, everybody is expecting him to improve year after year. I just think with Marcus Rashford, that if you've got him as a bench option where he does thrive, I think when he's got space to run into, he is a pacey player. He doesn't seem to have lost too much of his pace. He does carry a goal threat. He does cause defenders issues. I think he's a better option off the bench than Diallo. I think he's levels better than Garnacho's ever been. I think the thing about him is that he just causes problems. And if you look at Michael Carrick's like the way Michael Carrick plays, I think does suit someone like Rashford, where he does get the ball forward quickly. If you're looking at having a few options either side, and this could be if you've got Diallo, you've got Mbeumo, you've got Dorgu, you've got Rashford. I think one thing that Rashford can do is he can score goals. His goal scoring record is roughly 1 goal every 3 games, which is a lot better than Gordon. It's it's so much better than when was Rashford consistent for Man United? That's your issue. I think you should just look at how many goals Rashford's got over his career. Compare it with someone like Matoma. Compare it with someone like Anthony Gordon. It's just like it's 1 in 3 games he scored a goal. And if you're looking at that, that's probably the same as Mark Hughes. It's actually probably better than people like Brian McClare. It's up there. I think that to have a goal threat like that is something that look at Garnacho, look at Diallo. Diallo's best season in terms of goals scored, it's probably one of the same as Rashford's worst season. So that's kind of the difference, isn't it? I know Rashford has pissed off a lot of people, but in terms of like what he's delivered over a decade, it's still a lot better than some of these fringe players we've had. The question is going to be is I still think that Marcus Rashford would be a player that gets sold, ideally, but if you're looking at other players like if you who's out there would you rather have Gordon or Rashford in your team? Because I think with Gordon's going to run. Gordon's going to like cover the ground. Gordon's going to be great in the press. He's going to track back, but he doesn't offer much of a goal threat. And are Man United going to be better team having? But again, I don't think Rashford should necessarily start. That's what I'm saying as well. I don't think Rashford needs to be a starter. I know he gets paid too much, but I think he might be an effective bench option. So I don't know. I still don't think he's going to be part of the team, but I'm just pushing out kind of like if you had to get Rashford and you had to use him, what would be the best? What would be the best thing for Man United? I think the best thing for Man United would be that Rashford is like part of the bench option that can provide a significant threat on the counter attack. And again, it might not be ideal, but what's the best case scenario? Man United loaning out Rashford somewhere else where he can benefit the other team. Because if we loan him out, I just don't see what the point is. So Rashford should have a good World Cup to help his value. Bilal thinks that Rashford's going to leave. Did United try to get Mathis Tell? I think Mathis Tell was quite expensive, wasn't he, for what he delivers? I don't know. I think if you look at like Rashford had a really good season, but he had quite a few seasons in double figures. I'm just saying, if you're looking at Rashford versus Diallo, who would you rather have? If you forget all the drama regarding the players, who's going to be the more effective player on the pitch, Diallo or Marcus Rashford? Because at the moment, you're going to be looking at maybe one of them. Like Almajol is definitely going to be a Man United player. I don't see them selling him. I just think with Gordon, if I was in charge of Barcelona, I just don't see why you go for Gordon. Like Gordon can run, that's about it. But this is like not an athletic. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like Gordon can run, but he did that all day for England and created nothing. Like England with Gordon on the pitch and Madueke don't look anywhere near the level they do when they have someone like Rashford or someone like Saka. So I say it's about character. So I think. Well, I think with this one, yeah, they obviously they'd have to look at that. Say it's confirmed that West Ham are in no hurry. They now have what till September the 1st before to raise 150 to keep them financially safe. So okay, so maybe that's a bit of a concern then. Maybe for Man United fans, maybe July the 1st is not going to be Judgment Day for this one. Maybe we're going to have to wait a bit longer. Maybe we're going to have to wait until the end of August, which is a bit of a shame. I was kind of hoping we might see something happen. The only thing that Man United can do at the moment is, I suppose, put an offer on the table and see if it's accepted. And maybe I still think it's going to be about £70 million with add-ons included. But we'll have to see regarding this one. But September the 1st to raise 150 million. So I suppose they're probably still getting payments from Declan Rice, are they? So saves them from PSR this 30th of June and protects. So the rolling 3-year deficit is currently only 57 million. They did sell Luca Paqueta for quite decent money in January as well. So maybe with West Ham, they might look at other deals. Maybe that's why Man United are looking at Somerville, who actually looks okay. But again, I think with Somerville, some of these deals regarding getting players in, I don't think they need to. I don't think they're going to be looking at getting. I don't think Man United are going to be buying a left-side attacking player unless they can move on Rashford. Yeah, I don't think my view was I don't think Man United really rated Tell that much. Vril says if Rashford saves a fee for a backup striker and we can get an extra midfielder, centre back, left back, you're willing to go for it. So I'll go through some comments then. Let me know what you're thinking regarding the Rashford situation then. Alex says that Rashford performed better when Shaw was fit. We didn't really have adequate cover for Shaw, still don't. No, for me, if Man United can get a left back in, if we could get Lewis Hall in, then that would make a lot of sense. I'm not thinking Lewis Hall because you want to get Rashford performing. I just think Manchester United with someone like Lewis Hall, whoever's playing on the left is going to benefit from that. So Ben Jacobs, yeah, Ben Jacobs had a bit of an own goal, didn't he, with saying that Anderson might be cheaper in the summer. So I think Ben Jacobs' credibility has taken a bit of a hit with that one. So as I said, just pay attention to what journalists say and then see what actually happens. But Ben Jacobs was saying that Anderson might be significantly cheaper in the summer, wasn't he? He couldn't have been more wrong regarding that one. I just see with this one, I think there's a difference between Manchester United going for Matheus Fernandes and Manchester United with Matheus Tell. When I was looking at the Matheus Tell situation, there seemed to be interest, but Man United didn't see there was value in this one as well. I'm just laughing at some of the comments. So we've got a team of hard workers. Bruno, Cunha, Mbeumo, and Majalo. If Rashford would have to do the same, not do what he did in the last 18 months of his United career. I think with this one, a lot of this is going to depend on what Man United want from Marcus Rashford. So I think there's going to be, when you're looking at it, I think with Cunha, Cunha does play in bursts where I know people say that he walks a bit, but I think with Cunha, he's like kind of all action, or he's not going to be. He's going to be doing it in bursts where he can make all these runs. I think with Marcus Rashford, it depends what you want from him. If you want Marcus Rashford to track back and defend deep as well, it will limit what he can do on the counter attack because one of Rashford's strengths is probably playing quite high on the defensive line. If you want Marcus Rashford to be an effective threat from the counter attack, he needs to be quite high up the pitch. There's no point Bruno Fernandes getting the ball in midfield and having someone like Marcus Rashford not that far away from him. You want Marcus Rashford significantly ahead, running against the defenders. Otherwise, Marcus Rashford is not going to be great against a low block. So I think that's why the reason why for me, Rashford, but I know we can look at different examples, but if you give Gordon lots of space to run into, I don't think he's going to cause anywhere near the sort of threat Rashford does, but he is going to be more effective defensively. That's why I think with this one, Armadillo is not great defensively, although he does try and do that. I just think if you look at the game, Paris Saint-Germain versus Arsenal, for me, is the perfect example. I think Marcus Rashford would really suit Arsenal in terms of he offers something they haven't got. And if you're looking at Man United, he offers something we haven't got. We haven't got someone that's got the speed of Rashford with the finishing of Rashford. We got Armadillo that can run, but we have to be realistic and say how many goals is Armadillo going to get over the whole season, and how many times does he cause a significant problem for defenders? I just don't think he. No, I hope I'm proved wrong, but I just don't see Armadillo stepping up to the next level as well. No, I agree with you, Ryan. I think Marcus Rashford's a sub, but unfortunately, the biggest problem with Marcus Rashford is probably Man United giving him a contract that was just too big, considering where he should be in terms of what's happened as well. So let me go through a few of the comments as well. So Arsenal spend summer transfer kitty on wingers every season. They keep signing average players, though, don't they? Omajalo isn't good enough, but that's not. Yeah, to be honest, I don't want to be too negative, but I don't think Omajalo is good enough for Man United. I know people like him. There's nothing to dislike about Omajalo, but over the course of like his Man United career, he just doesn't cause anywhere near enough goal threat. He doesn't create enough chances either. He can't really defend inside. He's physically not strong enough either when he is in defensive situations. So I don't know. I think Almajalo, he's got a nice technique. He's good at running with the ball, but I just don't see I just don't think he's like good enough to be in a team that's going to try and win the title. That I mean, he's probably going to still be in the team, but I just don't see what Almajalo. What does Almajalo do that Dan James didn't do? That Dan James probably got more assists, and Almajalo is probably, if you consider how many games he's played for Man United, how many times does he score? How many times does he create opportunities that other people miss? I just don't see how he's improved, and he's been on the books for about 5 years, hasn't he? Yeah, I'll agree with you, Gaz. I don't dislike I don't dislike Almajalo in the same way I didn't dislike Dan James. They both work hard, but I just don't see they're actually going to be. I just don't see that they're going to be first team players. If Almajalo is starting, I think he's better off the bench, and I think Marcus Rashford's the same. I think Marcus Rashford and Almajalo are bench options. It's just one of them gets paid over 300k a week for some reason, whereas Cunha and Bramo, they're going to be starting players for me. That's the difference. I mean, I know he was probably maybe Almajalo was our most threatening player a year ago when we had Ruben Amorim, but that's another reason. Like we're quite a dreadful team at that point, weren't we? No, I think that don't give up on him because people can improve. I just don't see. I just think his output is not there, and it's if you think about it as well, Almajalo against Elliot Anderson, it was so easy for Anderson to just ease him off the ball. He's a bit, in terms of defensive work, he's just a bit of a liability, unfortunately. Players on your hit list that need replacing. The thing is, though, Agate, not a first team player. Mount, not a first team player. Xerxes, not a first team player. Um, Luke Shaw, I think Luke Shaw's going to be a backup potentially if we get a new player in. But the thing is, like Dallo is a first team player, but Man United would have to replace him, and I don't know. It's some of these players though. There's so many people to replace that Man United haven't even fixed midfield, and once they fix midfield, I think the next thing is going to be get a left back in because Luke Shaw's been there forever. So Is Amajalo a first team player? Kind of 50-50, isn't he? I think so. Ahmed levels above Dan James. But the thing is that, okay, and what metric? I'm thinking about if Man United want to win games, what did Almajalo do that Dan James didn't do? Then it sounds harsh, but what does Almajalo do that Dan James doesn't do in terms of winning games? Because the only thing you can see is that I think Almajalo is very aesthetically pleasing, but I'm not buying a work of art. I want to win a football match, and Dan James might not be as aesthetically pleasing on the ball, but he did create as many. You could probably look at Sam Maximum and go, "Is Sam Maximum great?" Because Sam Maximum had about 3 goals a season, and I think you could also look at Adama Traore. All these players look good, but when you look at it over the whole season, what do they do? Because I want to win a football match, and I don't see how having a if you're going to play 4-2-3-1 or you're going to play 4-3-3, I don't think you can have someone in the left wing position or have somebody in the left hand, say no, sorry, right wing position or someone on the right hand side that doesn't carry a significant goal threat, and that's kind of the issue I've got. So nothing negative about Almajalo. He's I just don't think he's done anything to maybe. It's probably yeah, probably the best way of looking at it is output versus eye test. Like Dan James is probably more effective than San Maximum Adama Traore for a fraction of the price. But yeah, technically, the thing is though, technically you could say he's better on the ball, but in terms of winning a football match, it doesn't help at all. That's the issue I've got. That I don't really care how good someone can dribble if the end product or the decision making is not there. And for me, if you're looking at if I was going to pick one player at the moment, say I just don't see what Omar does that makes him say effective. Yeah, I think well Dan James was only signed for about 50 million, wasn't he? But if anyone's got any questions, so Dan James was just to run a bet. I think Dan James wasn't good enough. That's what I was going to say. But I don't think Omar was good enough either. Um, so let's have a look at. Bilal says, I believe Ahmed has more goals. Maybe he will. Maybe he will. But maybe this is one where I think people like Ahmed Jallo, and maybe that's why we're being a bit more generous with him. But no, maybe he will. Maybe we'll get more goals. I don't know. Maybe in a better team. Yeah, I'm just thinking like what's going to suit Michael Carrick. And I think if you're going to be looking at playing 4-3-3 potentially, I think every one of your front three has got to be a significant goal threat. So no, maybe I think with this one you could probably look at it as well. Um, yeah, I think I think with this one, then obviously that's a pretty tough choice, Bilal. I think yeah, the obvious choice there is to just never leave your house and never date. But if you're looking at comparing between those two players, the question I've got is that everybody can say, "Oh, Majora's got a higher ceiling." I think all I would say is we just need to see it, don't we? That I think most people, I do agree with you. Most people, I have the same view as well. I think Armadillo's got a higher ceiling. The question is, are we going to see it? I think there's definitely potential there, but the question is going to be, when are you going to see this potential? When are you going to see him kind of click it? 'Cause I do feel like it could happen. Like it could happen. Like Armadillo's got kind of all the attributes to get to the next level. And I think the thing he's got that maybe Rashford didn't have is he's got the right attitude. The question is going to be, is he able to do that? And I think it's kind of close, isn't it? But it's going to make it more difficult because the pressure will be ramping up a little bit. Cunha. I think what we're seeing with Cunha in the World Cup is I think Cunha's just getting better and better, and he's looking like a more effective player on the bigger stage. And I think Cunha will just be like one of the best players in the Premier League next season. I think Mbeumo had a bit of a rocky period, but he does offer more defensively than Armajalo. Still offers a bit more goal threat than Armajalo. So I just get the feeling that Ahmad moved from being like almost a guaranteed starter to being, I don't know, it's not guaranteed that he's going to start, is it? So it might be a bit trickier for him. That's what I'm going to say. Um, if anyone's got any final questions as well, I think you're selling Ahmad short here. All I'd say is that has Ahmadjallo improved over the last couple of years? I just don't see it. I don't want to be negative, but you have to look at it in terms of like what have you seen from Ahmadjallo over the last 2 years that makes you think he's going to be good enough to be a Manchester United player? It could be that when we had like a 2 year thing, then you're out. Maybe this was Ahmad's first year. Maybe we're going to see another one. I'll stay live for like another 5 minutes, Ian, if you've got some questions as well. Yeah, I'm the same. I'm the same as you, Bilal. I like Ahmad I won't say anything negative about Ahmad in terms of character. I like him. I think you know, I like what he tries to do. I just don't know if it's going to click into gear. And 24 seems like you got a lot of your career left. But we are talking about him being at Manchester United. Then he goes to Rangers. Then he goes to Sunderland. Then he's been at Man United for a couple of years. I know the situation hasn't been ideal, but I'm already seeing like people like Cunha just look like a lot better, and people like Mbramo over the last couple of seasons have been a lot better as well. I'm just wondering whether Armadillo is going to be like plateauing or whether he can kick on. If he can kick on, then great. It's a great bonus for us. I'm just a bit concerned that it's not going to happen. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, thing with technique, I think it's that. I think with this as well that he's got great technique, but it just needs to be more effective as well. And Gaz says he definitely needs to have a better season next season or he'll be packing his bags. I didn't want this wasn't intentionally supposed to be like an Amajalo kind of evaluation. I think we're looking at Rashford. What would be okay? People watching, what would be your expectations for Amajalo next season? Because I don't think Amajalo is going to be like he's going to get plenty of games next year. We're going to see how he does in the Champions League as well. He has looked good for the Ivory Coast. I do take that point. Like, he has looked quite good. But again, the World Cup, I think it's quite difficult to see. Um, Maybe this could be so. Does Ahmed make way for Lacey and gets money towards Hull, or is he more valuable in the team? Don't know actually. If we got an offer for if you got an offer for say Ahmed Jallo, like how much money would you accept for him? Because if you with Lacey, I just think Lacey we just haven't seen much at all. Is this Almajalo 11 goals and 11 assists and 70 appearances? I'm just looking for the comment. What did Gaz put that was brutal? Because if there's a brutal comment, let's just look at it. But I think Gaz is thinking that he's going to pick his game back up. So so it's still a good conversation. Everyone's concerned about Armour. Do you know what I think with this one is? I think most people watching, myself included, I think most Man United fans as well, they like Ahmad Jallo. We want him to do well, but also the priority has got to be the Man United team. Like the priority has got to be the team. But in terms of individuals, then I've got nothing negative to say about Ahmad Jallo apart from it's just frustrating that he's not kicking on as much. And again, like people improve at different ages. I know there's going to be like a learning curve. It just feels like with Ahmad Jallo, he's always had the technique. He's always he's always looked like he's got some ability there. But the Premier League, like it's like we just need end product. That's what we need. Afternoon, Stephanie. Good to see you on another channel. Other channels are not available, Stephanie. You heard Real Madrid might be entering the Matheus Fernandes. Are they just talking about Fabrizio? Like, I'll just say, I don't see. We could see that. I think Real Madrid, though. I think if you're looking at Mourinho wants the finished article, and Mourinho is not a project manager, is he? As well, maybe maybe at some point, if we might have to have an Armadillo sort of stream. So it feels like Armadillo has played loads of games for us. He has only played 70 Premier League matches. Do you know what the problem is, though? That despite what we're saying as well, that with Armadillo, I don't see the improvements. And the thing I've got that's a bit of a concern is that when people say he did really well at Sunderland, it's in the Championship, and I'm just thinking, okay, that's not great. And then when you talk about him being quite good, then it's a bit like when people look at different strikers, for example. I always say that Haaland's levels above most strikers. And if people say, "Oh, but Haaland doesn't do this," Haaland, like, what does Haaland not do? Haaland scores goals. He's a striker. He's the most clinical goal scorer we've had, possibly in Premier League history, in terms of like goals per game, and the amount of trophies that City have won on the back of Haaland's goals. But people will say, "Oh, he's not good at this," or I think Haaland's excellent at most things. Like he can run, finish off chances. He's great in the air. You saw that the chance that Odegaard missed, Haaland like can knock balls down, can create chances. He can hold off players. He's physically strong. He's pacey. He's rarely injured. I just don't see many weaknesses in Haaland's game. But lots of people on social media will say Isak's levels above. Technically, I don't think he is. Like I think people are just looking at things and people just considering dribbling as a technique, whereas striking the football and finishing chances and positional play is also a technique. And I think Haaland's got levels better technique than most people. And I think people looking at Armajallo, they look at the technique of dribbling, and okay, that is a technique, but where's the technique in crossing? Where's the technique in finding the spaces? Where's the technique in like linking up the play? I just think there's a lot of things in his game he hasn't really worked on. And at 24, I know it's quite young, but also his injury issues is a bit of a concern as well. Mr. B says you put Spurs is going to go to. So if, maybe Real Madrid might be the one that causes problems, but if it's Spurs, I'm 99% confident he's not a Spurs player. But maybe if Real Madrid come knocking, I might reevaluate what I'm thinking. Yeah, if you don't hit enough likes, then unfortunately we're going to have to start campaigning for Garnacho to come back. Yeah, sorry, but people keep saying he's 24, so I just went with it because he's not 24 yet. It just feels like he's been around for a long time, doesn't it? Because of the age he was when we signed him. So let's have a look at the poll and see what people are thinking as well. So I did say we'll put a poll in, but maybe we'll have to reevaluate the Amajolo situation at some point. So let me just quickly find. I've got to open the stream, so let's hope there's not any noise. So please, 20 likes it seems. Please don't forget to click the like button. I know there's a lot of channels streaming the same sort of thing. Right, let's mute that. So right, so at the moment, 61% Man United. So yeah, to be honest, like saying he's 23 years, and let's just reevaluate the stream in like a couple of weeks then when he is 24. So just trying to close the poll. So the question was at the start of the stream is where does Matheus Fernandes play? I've been trying to push pretty confidently that it's going to go to Man United. And at the moment, Man United only get 61% of the vote. Spurs gets 23% of the vote. West Ham 10%. And I'm guessing Real Madrid might be the 6% then. 31 votes. Why have you guys not clicked the like as well? Tiger Claws, Alex says, why does it feel like the board are happy with the current crop? If you get Matheus Fernandes deal, it might take time, but there's other positions that we've made zero ground on. I suppose with this one is any player that's signed for Manchester United or any other club, there will be significant groundwork done. I think a lot of people, I think a lot of things are actually going on behind the scenes. And if Man United only signed three midfielders, we'd have massive problems, wouldn't we? So I get the feeling there's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes we're not aware of. And if that's not the case, we've got some big problems, haven't we? Yeah. So maybe the 11th of July cake, we can start the stream. He's 24. What's going on? Why is he not improved? Um, yeah. But for that last couple of minutes, has anyone got any questions that we've not covered? I feel like I tried to avoid talking about Rashford the same way I tried to avoid talking about Sancho, but it feels like there's an inevitability that the news stories absolutely love a Rashford story, don't they? The same way that they loved like a probably like a Sancho story, which got a bit annoying. The Matheus Fernandes one, though, as I said, that don't believe the hype regarding like things that are happening. I think we're not going to find out too much about Matheus Fernandes until it's pretty much here we go. I think Fabrizio Romano will pretty much be doing exactly the same thing every single day. Um, yeah, I'm not going to judge Almajar until he hits the age of 24. In which case, obviously, he can't. No, I think maybe with Almajalo that a lot of people scrutinise him. I think one of the reasons is that there's a lot of hype regarding this one as well. Big up Mr. B. Mr. B covering all the Brentford news says, I've been doing my own transfer shows and I had to rant about certain idiots on Facebook saying I'm a clown on YouTube and it's just clickbait. I don't think it is clickbait. I think you're just talking about the news. I think people can like look at a thumbnail and get angry about it, but to be honest, if you want rational conversation, then just post sensible comments. That's all you have to do. If you're watching your stream, I do see a lot of YouTube channels, and if the chat is mainly nonsense where people are just posting loads of reactionary rubbish or just stuff that's probably not true, then it's going to make it more difficult. But if you've got sensible questions, I think most streams are going to be a lot more effective. Note to self, yeah, I'm starting to think regarding this one that what do people think then? Honest opinion that one of the things that I look at is when there's a debate about Marcus Rashford or a debate about Armajalo or Maguire or Luke Shaw, is this a mistake? Because I usually dive straight in and say, look, I think a lot of people look at this in a bit too much of a binary debate, and people look at it and go, Luke Shaw too old, too shit. That's kind of what you see. Maguire's finished. Armajalo, he's technically amazing, and we need to just play to his strengths, or his output is nowhere near good enough. And Marcus Rashford is either toxic or he gets paid too much. I just think that a lot of these debates become a bit too one dimensional, whereas in reality, Marcus Rashford is obviously a talented football player. Almajolu is young, needs to work on some of these things. Maguire effectively is just less injury prone than De Ligt and Lissandro Martinez. That's why we kept him at the club. And I think Luke Shaw did a good job last season, but only a stupid club would keep Luke Shaw and not get a backup. That would be ridiculous, wouldn't it? So all not good enough. I think that individually, I agree that they're not good enough. But I think what you could look at is each one of these players that we're talking about: Rashford, Maguire, Shaw, Almajar, Dallo. As soon as they become like backup players, I think it's fine. If Maguire's part of your squad while Aiden Heaven and Yori get up to speed, and if Man United had someone like Murillo or a top quality centre back, and if Man United had, say, attacking wingers and Omajalo had an option on the bench, if this is your bench, it's not a problem, is it? Like Marcus Rashford, Maguire, Shaw, Almajalo, and Dallo. If they're on your bench, there's no problem. But the problem is, if they're in the first team, I don't think it's good enough. That's the difference. So maybe am I making a mistake in like debating these sort of things? Because I just think a lot there's a bit too much toxicity. I think part of this is like these players, yeah, these players didn't choose to get given these crazy contracts, but no one's going to refuse them, are they? I think that's the difference. I think I'll say this as a final point. If Man United are going to improve, I don't think you improve by getting rid of all these players. I think what you need to do is let me just put the list back up again. Where is this list? Let me find that because this is kind of the players that people always say get rid of Luke Shaw, get rid of Maguire, etc., etc. Where is that list of players? So what I was going to say is, right, Manchester United's aim should be that if Man United buy a better centre back and Maguire's on the bench, if Manchester United have good attacking players so that Rashford and Almajola are on the bench and a new right back so Dallo is effectively on the bench, I think our team would be a lot better. And for me, these are bench options, aren't they? This is the kind of the level they are. The problem is Man United's squad is so bad. But if Man United sell all these players and then buy new players in, our first 11 will be great, but our backups will be probably too much of a drop off. If there's a lot of academy players on our bench, I don't think it's a positive thing. I think it's a bit of a concern that United haven't done enough in the window. That's all I'll say. So no, I'm going to probably wrap it up there. There's going to be quite a few streams tonight. There's going to be a watch along for I think the 5 p.m. kickoff as well. I would say add De Ligt to that list as well. Martinez, I don't think Martinez is good enough either. De Ligt's kind of 50-50 for me. I think the injuries make him not good enough either. I'll say the players that are good enough, you've got Lamans is good enough. Aiden Heaven, I think, will be good enough. I'm hoping that I think Kobe Mainoo is definitely good enough. Cunha and Bramo. Actually, no, Cunha's definitely good enough, and Bramo I think is like close, and maybe Benjamin Sesko is hopefully going to get there. But I think United have probably got like 4 players good enough in terms of like trying to win a title, but we need to do a lot more in this window. But just to say, tonight there's going to be a watch long for I think 2 watch longs, and Jules is going to be doing a Manchester United stream somewhere in the middle of that. So there's going to be quite a lot of content today. If you enjoy the content, as usual, please share, please drop a like on the video. And what I might do is I might pivot towards doing probably, actually, what am I saying? I've gone mad. Yeah, Bruno Fernandes is quite good, isn't he? I think Bruno Fernandes is. I think I lost my mind there. Bruno Fernandes is obviously a key part of the squad and will remain to be. So I forgot about him. I don't know why I forgot about Bruno. Um, but no, please, one thing as well, I might start running a few suggestions on the channel because at the moment there's been no new subscribers for a month, so I'm a bit concerned that the channel is just not really. What's the opposite of growing? I'm a bit concerned that we're going to be like mid-table for a while, but I might try potentially doing some shorter content. But unfortunately, if it doesn't grow, I might have to just pivot towards doing videos and things that take up less time. But if you're able to share the stream, that will be appreciated. But we will be covering the watch longs and stuff tonight. But take it easy, guys. Um, yeah, there should be a few people in the watch longs as well. Subscribers are waiting for Matheus Fernandes to join. They've been waiting for fucking ages, aren't they? Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.